Whoever wants to ask the first question, you can go ahead and ask it for Coach Rubio.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go first since my hand raising thing doesn't work. I want to talk about Sophia. Didn't expect to see her because I knew she had some challenges.
Right.
But I was impressed. What was your feeling about how she performed considering the circumstances?
Well, the good news is that, she got retested the Friday prior to us leaving and was retested negative. So that allowed us to get her back a little bit sooner, which was, she's a big part of what our future looks like. And I think that in general, with such a large group of new players and several of those players never being in a Pac-12 match, you weren't quite sure what to expect. Sophia certainly played well, and I thought there were players on the team that played well, certainly individually. As a group, we didn't play particularly well, but I was pleased with Sophia's performance, as I was with Jalen and a couple other players that I thought performed well. But the new players specifically, I thought had good matches.
And
Go ahead,
Coach.
Yeah,
what do you think about, you guys are in a gauntlet right now. Last week, this week, and next week, you play some of the top teams in the nation. You don't get a break here.
Yeah. In practice this week, I wrote down kind of the preseason rankings and then I wrote down, each week when we're going to play them. So, the first 3 weeks, as you know, Utah, Washington, and Stanford, 1, 2, and 3. And there's not much forgiveness in the conference in general, but when you open up with a young squad like we have, with the 3 top teams in the conference, reality hits you pretty quickly, especially with a young group who hasn't competed at this level yet. So regardless of the outcome, the weekend was good for us, and we got better because of what we had to deal with and what we faced this weekend, because we didn't have any knowledge and the players didn't have any knowledge about, really what to expect. And as I said in the past, you don't know what you don't know. And despite the fact that, in practice, I'm constantly pontificating about this isn't going to work at this level. We need to do these things to be successful. There's nothing like a dose of reality when you're in the middle of a match and you're getting pummeled by Utah to say, okay, we better step it up in practice. And I think that those players in our team are really good and are working hard. But when you face it face to face, it's a lot easier to kind of be convinced that we need to do certain things better in practice.
Out Washington, they had some struggles with ASU this past week. Have you had time to see any of what went on there? Do you think there are things that are going to help you, or do you think there were things that were just kind of, they're just starting? And
well, I think that there's a couple of things that was interesting. If you have a non-conference opportunity, then there's a lot of things you can work out and still be successful. You're not playing the level of teams that you're, jumping off the bat like we did this last weekend. So the system itself, we in the New Mexico State exhibition match, I wasn't worried about winning. I just needed to find out which players could play where, which setter could do what. And it was apparent to me that after the exhibition match that Emory was a little bit overwhelmed in setting a 5-1. So we went to a 6-2 and using Emory and Akia. And that was actually, I felt like, was the best system for us because it utilized all the players. All 4 pin players were able to play. It allowed Emory to take a break after 3 rotations of setting. It allowed Akia to play, the senior. So I felt like that was the best system. We struggled in that system for a match and a half. And it was apparent that I needed to go back to the 5-1 and really, kind of focus on that. So that part was, I think, good information for me. Normally you work that stuff out and not lose matches, or certainly not in the, if you did, it was more competitive for them. But, that's just the way it is this year with us starting off with, with the level of teams that we were going to compete the first 3 weeks. So I like that. But then again, the information is good and the players need to face what we faced. And I think the one player that struggled this weekend more than any player was Paige. I mean, Paige struggled from a serve receive standpoint. Utah was going after Paige from serving her every single ball. I thought Paige struggled offensively, and she and I certainly have met about that. And Paige is certainly up for the task. I mean, any great player that struggles like that certainly self-admittedly says that she's got to play better, which she did, and she told me. And so now I think we've certainly got her attention, and certainly the other teams are going to be picking on her, and certainly she knows that. And I think when she gets back to being, playing at the level that she did last year or even better, that'll really help the team compete better and certainly have more success.
You guys play Washington on Saturday, and it's right after the men's basketball game. I'm just curious if that changes anything logistically in terms of warm-ups or preparation.
I tell you, with a young team like we have, having a day off in between is really a good break for them, and allows us to have a practice on that day, on the day in between. And playing back-to-back's a little harder for us. With an experienced team and you got a veteran team like, a team like Utah, I think it's probably not a big a deal. But with a team like us, any opportunity we can to get in the gym and practice is beneficial. Playing back-to-back I think is harder. You have less time to prepare. The players probably tend to hang on to negative thoughts and negative things longer than the older players and more experienced players do. But in my wish, I wish that we had a day off in between, but that's just not the case for sometimes. We're gonna have to play back-to-back later on in the year as well.
But does the fact that you're playing right after the basketball game end, does that change anything for you?
Not really. I think that's the timeline isn't going to be is probably going to be the same, and there's probably not too many adjustments that we're going to need to make about that. So I think our kickoff time is at 6. Is that right, Danny? On Saturday?
6:30.
6:30. Okay,
Yeah.
6:30. Okay.
And in general, have you had to change anything because you are sharing, Richard Jefferson Gymnasium with both basketball teams during their season, when normally you're basically over by the time they're starting?
Remarkably, it's been pretty smooth with us and the sharing of gym time. I think Sean and Akia and I certainly all understand that how important practice time is. And the good news is that you don't have any conflict if you have enough facilities. And so fortunately for us, we have enough facilities to be able to manage. We go early in the morning from 8 o'clock until 11. If we were going in the afternoon, I think there'd be more conflict. But because we're going early in the morning, there tends to not to be as much conflict. So that part, I certainly know who, back when I first got hired and Lute was here and we were practicing in Bear Down Gymnasium, this is back in the early 90s, it was a little different story. And I just would go to Lute, just keep the court as long as you need to keep it, and we'll get on one after you're finished. And I always knew kind of where my bread was buttered, and Lute and I always had a great relationship because I never pressed Lute or complained about if he went over 10 or 15 minutes. Men's basketball certainly is a big deal, and I understand kind of where my place is and where volleyball is in the ranking in relation to where men's basketball is. So it was always important for me to have a good relationship with the men's basketball coach, as I do with Sean Miller.
And what are you expecting this week from Washington?
What do I expect from Washington?
Right.
Washington traditionally has, they've been one of the top 3 teams in our conference for many, many years. And the reason is they have terrific, well-skilled players. They have a good system, steady, and they've always been very, mindful about how they go about their business. They're a tough team to beat because they don't make a lot of unforced errors. They're not moving the scoreboard for for the opposing team by making those unforced errors. So you got to really play steady, and you're going to have to score on them in order to put yourself in a position to win sets and matches. So they've been a tough opponent for us. The last 3 years, I think it's been, if we'd have to check the records, but certainly the last 3 years, we haven't had a full squad. We've been injured with concussions or people out when every time we played them, either home or away. So of course, this year we're at this point, we're healthy, but we're super young. They have every team has issues, and they certainly are no different than anybody else. But we'll see how it is come Friday. I'm looking forward to competition with the youth on our team. We know that every opportunity we have to compete against an opponent is going to make us better. Every opportunity we have to be in the practice gym is going to make us better. So we're on a pretty steep learning curve right now. That doesn't always mean it's going to translate into wins, but we know that with time we're going to be we'll be one of the top teams in the conference. It's just a matter of when that's going to happen.
And speaking of youth, is Simone back yet, or is she still out for a while now?
Simone is back. Simone has been back for probably 2 weeks now. She's has a ways to go in terms of catching up. She missed the first 18 days of practice. And so I'm not sure if it's 18 days, but she was out for 10 days and it took about another 3 to 4 days. So she was out for about 2 weeks, and then now she's trying to play catch up, and she was behind before because of her surgeries. And so now, she's kind of in catch up mode.
And going back to earlier, you had mentioned, Paige didn't have a good outing this past weekend, and you talked to her about it and everything. But what sort of do you think went into that? Was it just an off couple of matches, or there was something just she wasn't maybe aligned with the team, or sometimes things are off like that?
I think that's a good question. I think someone of Paige's quality it would be unexpected for her to struggle as much as she did this weekend. And I think that the practice habits that she has demonstrated since we started didn't allow her to put herself in a position to be kind of the normal Paige we're accustomed to. And let me expound on that. Because Paige is clearly the best player in our gym, she didn't really have to work that hard to be the best player in our gym. And in my explanation to her in our discussion yesterday was more along the lines of, your comparison isn't whether or not the players in the gym, our gym, your comparison is the best players in the conference. And I said, and you need to demonstrate that every single day in practice. And I said, so my suggestion is what's going to really help us, because she has demonstrated great leadership skills in the gym and then off the court as well. But now what we need her leadership to be is her playing at an intensity level and an eliteness that's going to help us compete better. And so she needs to start doing that in practice. And so every great player, when they hear that honesty, they take that and they digest it and they say, okay, you're right, I need to step it up. And she needs to dial it up in practice. And that's what she said yesterday. And that was a response yesterday after we spoke.
And what would you say about Akia's performance so far? And what are you seeing in her?
I feel fortunate that Akia is here, that she decided to, I think the connection to Tucson and the University of Arizona is an obvious one, with her father going to school, growing up here in Tucson. And so I think it was always a dream of hers to come play at a level like this and transferring. And so we've been the beneficiary of that. She's a terrific young lady, hardworking, committed, and at this particular stage, she certainly helps us in practice every single day. So probably the disadvantage she has is she's coming at a level she's not used to competing at every single day. the system is really different, and the technique that I'm asking her is very different. Although we don't really work too much on technique, but more systems. The setting is different, and the level and the tempo is different. The expectations are different. So there's a little bit of a transition there for her on that. And I think at times she struggles with that. Overall, though, I couldn't ask for a better person and a better player, and of someone who's as committed to being as good as she can be every single day.
Anything else for Coach Rubio? Okay, thanks, Coach.
Thanks, you guys. I look forward to seeing what happens on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
See you later.
All right. We have senior setter Akia Warrior here, and we will open it up for questions.
Okay, I'll go first. Akia, when you signed, Dave told us about your family's background here in Tucson, your dad going to Cholla. How much did you visit back here a lot when you were young? How much?
So my grandpa still lives here, and then a lot of my dad's family from his mom's side, they all live here as well. So I used to come visit here all the time, and then also up in Phoenix a lot when I was younger.
So was that kind of a draw for you when you were deciding where to grad transfer?
Yes, 100%. My old school was in Nashville, and I had some family up there too. And so it was really important to me that the next school that I went to, I was also by family.
What's different about here than your other experience at your other college?
Well, this school's a lot bigger than my last school was. I would definitely say that the style of play is different as well. At my old school, my conference was a mid-major, so a lot of the play was smaller girls who could just were really athletic and jump pretty high. And here you have a combination of girls who are both really tall and athletic versus just some girls that are a little bit smaller. I guess that would be the biggest difference between being here and being at my old school. Yeah, that's really the main difference.
And did you, Akia, this is PJ, hi.
Hi.
Did you, when you decided to come here, was it like coming home?
Yes, it was for sure. My grandpa, my dad's dad, is one of the people that is closest to me and my family. I love spending time with him a lot of times whenever I had free time throughout my last couple of years of high school. And then anytime in college, I would come here and visit him and just say hi to him and get to hang out with him. And then the family that lives here, actually, we used to spend summers together. So at my grandma's house, but once she passed away, it was really hard for us to get together. So being here has been really nice, and I get to see them. I normally go see them once a week or maybe a couple times a week. So that's definitely been really, really nice.
So you're used to the hot summers here?
Yes, for sure. And I'm from Dallas, and so the heat there is definitely different than here. It gets pretty hot there too, but it's way more humid. And so the dry heat is definitely something that I love for sure.
Great. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say, what are the challenges of learning this system that you're playing? And Dave said it's really hard to learn, especially coming in and only having a year to do it.
I would say the biggest challenge is that I'm just still trying to learn Dave's thought process in terms of what setting decisions he wants us to make. That would be, for me, the biggest challenge, just because setting is a consistent position, I would say, in the fact that a lot of coaches setting location is the biggest factor. But also with Dave, he likes us to make the right decision too. And his decision making for us is just a little bit different than other systems that I've played for. So I would say that's the biggest thing, the biggest challenge for me personally.
How do you think these first couple matches have gone so far?
I think that we have a really young team, but I feel like a lot of the preparation that we've been doing in practice, Dave and the rest of the coaching staff do a really good job of preparing us in practice for what we're going to see in a match. And so I think we have the knowledge and we have this skill set. It's just a matter of making sure that we're executing throughout the entire match rather than just a couple times in the beginning or a couple times in the end.
And what has it been like working with Emery? You're both new to the program, but you're obviously a lot more experienced in terms of how long you've played college volleyball.
It's been really well working with her. I mean, we're both kind of in the same boat in terms of trying to learn what Dave wants and how that he wants the plays to be run in this system and stuff. And so it's definitely been going really well in my personal opinion. I think Emery's a really good setter and she's a good person and she's fun to have around in practice too. So that definitely helps out a lot, knowing that if I'm down, then I can always go and talk to her, or like ask her for advice, or just like focus on, like, I can learn from her and what Dave wants, and just as well, like she can learn from me and what Dave wants as well.
You're one of only 2 seniors on the squad, and you have technically an extra year if you want to come back. Are you giving any thought to that, or is it something you'll put off till later, or how's that working for you?
Right now I'm just trying to look at what we're doing for season. I think what I do next year will be based a lot on things that happened this year. Just because I will have my master's in 1 year. And so trying to think about if I want to go into a career right away, or if I want to have that extra year. I love volleyball and I would love to continue playing, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm doing what's best for me and also what's best for the program as well.
And what's it been like for you to come in and right off the gate, when you start out, you're playing these, top teams in the country with Utah, now Washington, and next week Stanford?
Honestly, I feel like it's just a mindset, making sure that me, myself, and then everyone else on the team and everyone around me has the same mindset, that we're all very goal oriented in terms of making sure that we're executing every single time we get a chance to better the ball. Like anytime we get a touch on the ball, just making sure we're bettering the ball. I've never been one to be somebody who's scared or worried about the next person that we're going to play. I've seen multiple times where teams that are really, really good get taken out by teams who were not expected to take them out. And so I think just making sure that we have the right mindset and we're going every day into practice, and especially in the match, we're staying mentally engaged in practice and just keeping that good mental mindset of continuing to better every single time you touch the ball.
And did you think when you came here that this is how sort of your senior season would, your grad season, I should say, would sort of evolve? I mean, we're in the midst of a pandemic. You're playing a season that you didn't get non-conference matches, and your season's a little bit condensed, and it's in the winter instead of the fall. A lot of differences for you.
This is definitely not what I was thinking was going to happen this year. It's definitely possessed a lot of challenges, but at the same time, I think there are a lot of advantages that our team personally has had with the season being postponed a little bit. We've gotten to train a lot more. We've all gotten to get to know each other a little bit better. We've gotten to get to know the coaching staff a little bit better. And I definitely think that has helped us all gel into a group that is trusting each other, and we're making really good strides. We're getting better every single time we're in the gym, and our increases in skill and technique and performance are going up every single day. So I definitely think, as much as I wish that we would have had a season in the fall and had a traditional season, there have been a lot of advantages to the season that we have had right now.
Anything else for Akia? Okay, great. Thank you, Akia.
Thanks.
And thank you, everybody.